One. Welcome to From the Valley podcast. This is episode 22. This is another Friday afternoon podcast, and it's an interesting podcast. And I've wanted to get this character on for quite some time, I guess. And finally, he's got an opening in his schedule on a Friday. There's a bit of a story. It's welcome along, Kevin Gammie. Anyway, welcome along.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for inviting me along.
Yeah, so how Kevin and I know myself, we've known each other for quite a number of years. We first met back in the year 2000, actually. And oddly enough, Confidential Tax and Business Services listeners will know that's obviously where I work. But oddly enough, that's where I got the job back in May 2000. And it was Kevin Gammie's recruiting firm, ABT Recruitment, that actually lined up the position, actually did the headhunting. And I'm still with Confidential Tax and Business Services.
So what a great placement that one was.
A very good placement. They made a very good choice, Confidential Tax and Business Services.
Yes, they did. Absolutely.
Indeed. And then the other odd thing with Kevin, obviously run into Kevin because Brisbane is such a small place. We talk about this quite often. We've got 2 degrees of separation. Everybody seems to know everybody. Once you sort of get around and do a bit of networking in Brisbane, it's not hard to run into the same people over and over again. I would have ran into Kevin about 7 or 8 years ago at a Terry Cooper event, for example, a networking event where we were at the same table. Yeah. But not too long. And then in 2015, early 2015, myself and my wife were moving house. We moved from Stafford to Windsor. And what happened there was, unbeknownst to me, I didn't realise this for, I think, 2 or 3 months, but Kevin was actually a neighbour 2 doors down, which is quite interesting that because we obviously run into each other so much over the years, and we've actually, Kevin had been to the Confidential Tax and Business Services premises here in Kedron prior to that, so we're always keeping in touch. So that was just a stroke of genius. But then I must have sort of given you the wrong impression because 6 months later you guys had moved out.
Look, I'm not going to say that it was the street wasn't big enough for both of us, but hey, we went closer to the horses. That's all.
Yeah, and I know you love your horses. We may talk about that later on in the podcast if we get time. Okay, what we sort of how we like to start these podcasts off, Kevin, is provide the listeners a bit of an early background, just so we know where you actually come from. So, what town were you born in, and what did your sort of parents do for a living and stuff like that?
Cool. Look, this is actually going to explain a whole lot about me. I was born down in Sutherland Shire in Sydney, so this is why I'm a dedicated, lifelong Sharks fan. I can't understand why the NRL picks on them and all that sort of stuff. But it is because, it was born down that way and they were our team. At the stage, Sutherland Shire was so far away from Sydney back then that, it was almost, it felt like a day trip, and that was like the big lights of Sydney to go in there, which was really quite interesting. Had quite a normal upbringing, just regular family. There were 4 kids. I was the youngest. My very first job, I was a paper boy. So really interesting how life goes around. When I left school, I became an accountant. So just like you, not very much like you, I was a commercial accountant. I went and worked for IBM back when IBM was a really big company, and that was an exciting opportunity.
So so the paperboy job, how long did you have that for, Kev?
Gee, I had that for about 2.5 years, and then I was old enough to get a real job, because back then, as a paperboy, you're kind of a little contractor, and you just go and sell papers and get paid a commission. So I was actually getting paid a commission in my very first job, which was really interesting. Then I went and sold shoes after school. So, I went down to the local shoe shop and, I was stacking shelves and doing all that. But if they were short-staffed, I'd go out the front and I'd be selling shoes to old ladies. So it was really quite a fun job. And then I went off and got my job at IBM. So I did that one for about 2 years as well. So
did you go to university at all in those early days? Yeah.
I studied accounting at UTS, the University of Technology Sydney, on a part-time basis. And I did that at night while I was working for IBM and a few other companies along the way. So it was quite an interesting way of doing it. I wouldn't recommend part-time study to anyone.
No, it makes the study take a lot longer. We've seen that. You see that over the years, I guess, as well. So, So how long were you sort of doing that particular job with IBM for? That was...
So I was with IBM for about 3.5 years. It was my very first. I was a cadet
Yep.
at IBM, and they move around different departments. So I worked in their accounts department and started out doing accounts payable, and then I went down into their planning department, and I was helping them, with appropriation requests and a whole lot of accountancy stuff. Then I moved down into the accounting team and was doing some work in supplies and making sure of their inventory and all that sort of stuff. And and eventually left IBM and went and worked for Unilever. I had a number of accounting jobs. Each company got a little bit smaller. Strangely enough, Unilever was smaller than IBM back then. Eventually I went and worked for Wellcome Pharmaceuticals, who are now part of SmithKline, Beecham, or whoever, the cold and flu guys. That was a really interesting job. I was a budget accountant, and I was flat out for 6 weeks of a quarter, and I had the other 6 weeks of the quarter, I was kind of twiddling my thumbs, wondering what to do, and they'd find me different miscellaneous projects. But it helped me understand a whole lot more about business. I eventually left accounting and went into recruitment, as you know.
So what year was it when you first moved to Brisbane?
I was in recruitment. When I joined recruitment, I actually joined Adia, who became Adecco, and I was in their accounting brand, and actually set up their accounting business here in Brisbane. First, it was called Adia Accountancy Staff. We became Accountants on Call, and then they changed it to Jonathan Wren. And I got sick and tired of them changing the name of the group that I was with and causing confusion in the marketplace and making it too hard. So I set up my own business. That was back in 1999, so that's when I actually set up.
So that's oddly enough, was about only the year before we met. Was when you set ABT recruitment up. So accounting. So why? Obviously, you had a bit of a background in that industry, so you knew the industry reasonably well. You had the outgoing, engaging sort of personality to be able to sort of delve and you could sort of get something out of the candidates and, I guess, talk to them on a level that was sort of an evenness level to a degree.
Yeah, a little bit more human than a lot of recruiters do is what I just try to talk to people as people.
Yeah.
It's a simple thing. I try and find out, what were their, didn't realise I was doing it at the time, but I was trying to find out what their life goals were. One of my favourite questions was say, hey, you're sitting on the porch, you're a grandparent, you're talking to your grandkids, what was that last job you just had? So to try and get an appreciation of where the candidate wanted their career to go, and making sure that the candidate didn't feel that was being judged in any way. And so it was just a way to get, a bit of banter starting and happening. It got the candidates nice and relaxed, and then we could start finding out, what they were really after in terms of what they were looking for in a job and in a company and the career that they were looking for.
And did you find that came fairly naturally, being a good recruiter, or was that something you think you had to really work at to be able to master? Did you feel comfortable running a business with a few other recruiters working with you and that sort of thing?
Not at all. The whole process, I've got to say, my entire career, I've got to confess, I've had a little bit of imposter syndrome the entire way through, and you kind of felt, hey, when are they going to work it out? When's someone going to come knocking at my door? And whether it was, as I was starting my own business as an accounting recruiter and hiring staff and training them, I was basically kind of running away from the corporate life. I didn't want that, and starting my own small business, and just wanted it to be fun and make a bit of money as we're going along the way. And so and over time, as you know, Tim, the team grew and grew and grew, and at one stage we had 15 odd staff.
15, really got that big? Okay.
Yeah, so we got that large right before the GFC, and that fixed having 15 staff. That stopped my growth. And caused a whole lot of challenges. And, when the GFC hit, we had offices in the middle of Queen Street Mall. We had 15 staff. We had,
Did you have a lease? Probably had long-term leases? Or?
We had a long-term lease. We'd only the year before signed a 6-year lease.
Jeez, yeah.
And that was costing us $16,000 a month. It was costing us $200,000 a year. Yeah.
How did you get out of the lease in the end?
We didn't.
No.
And that was the problem. So, in fact, we'd had the lease for a few years before the GFC hit, but what we ended up having to do was subletting a whole lot of the office because with the GFC and recruitment companies aren't great friends. When people are trying to shed staff, they're not really looking to pay someone to hire anyone, and so it caused a whole lot of challenges. When that happened, the world didn't know how to react to a GFC. Everyone thought, oh, there's going to be a bounce, and so we tried to hold on for staff for way too long. In the end, we had to let all of the staff go, and there was just myself and one other person left in the business, and we had to work our way out of it. We sublet most of the office, but that still left us with a $65,000 a year rent bill for a really small, tiny little office because we couldn't really rent it out any better. But anyway, that's a whole long story that we can get into another day.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So obviously, it certainly tested you, and what I guess, but it wasn't at that point at the time you got out of recruitment. Obviously, it took a few more years, I think.
It took a couple more years. So eventually, we did get out of that space, and the GFC changed how people were using recruiters. I didn't really like it, and I didn't have a better solution. And at the end of the day, I was just going in really frustrated. And I've always been someone that believes that you should love what you do.
Yeah.
And I was getting to really not loving what I was doing and feeling it. I'm feeling like an absolute ball and chain hanging around my leg. And so I decided that, hey, I had to get out. So I sold the business. We had at that stage regrown the business to having, close to $1 million turnover.
Yep.
And I sold the business off to my business partner.
Yeah.
And exited the business. I did do it in a transition rather than just on a, one day I'm here, one day I'm not. But in the end, it was absolutely the right decision to get out of recruitment. It just wasn't the right place, and I didn't have the right headspace for it at that particular time. Fair enough.
Obviously, you go through different phases in your life, and people can stay, for certain amounts of time. So sometimes, as I was talking to Jeff Cumnick earlier, been working for Morgan's for 30 years.
Yeah.
It's a long time to work for one place. I've been here for 19 years, and it's you're obviously in that business for more than 11 or 12 years.
Well, it was 15 years that I'd had ABT recruitment. I'd been in recruitment for 20 years at the time.
Yeah.
And it was it was time for something different.
Definitely.
And new.
So how long after you left, how long did the concept sort of come together for the Brisbane Small Business Facebook page, and how successful that is now? We will talk about that. But how did the idea come about? And obviously it's something you must be pretty happy and proud about.
Oh, something I'm exceptionally proud about on a whole number of different levels. The concept of Brisbane Small Business, how it came about was I'd moved into the business consulting and coaching side of things, and it was probably about a year or so into doing that, and I was looking for how could I get engagement with more small business owners. And I came up with, hey, why not use Facebook, and let's start creating a group. I don't know why I didn't just join other groups, and I did join a few other groups. I didn't like exactly how they were run, and decided that I wanted to have one that was run that was a little bit different, that was really focused on creating and building relationships and supporting each other. When I left recruitment, the part that I didn't tell you was that I was absolutely broken at the time, and I'd called a coach at the time who had been a recruiter before. I'd known for years and years and years, and we'd organised to have a chat. And I can remember, as clear as it is today, standing on Water Street down in Fortitude Valley. It was about as hot as it is today. It was about 35 degrees. I was standing in the sun, and I was having a chat with him, and I was actually on interview. I didn't realise it at the time. And he said, so why do you think that I could help you? And I said, I've got to be honest with you, mate. I think that the recruitment model's broken. I really don't, the fact that recruiters are only paid a commission on a successful outcome, and that their clients are sharing jobs to 5, 6, 7 different agencies, it makes it a race, and it really doesn't, I believe, get the best result. I think that model's broken. I even think that my partnership model was broken, with the fact that my partner at the time, my business partner at the time, had just had a newborn baby, and hey, we're post GFC, and we're having to work our butts off to even break even and try and pay back the government what we owed and all that sort of stuff, and this whole he was dedicated to his family, which, is not an unreasonable thing, but it meant that I was putting in huge hours and he was not, and yet we're taking home 50-50 because it was the only way that we could kind of keep our head above water. I said, that's broken. And mate, I've got to be honest, I feel I'm broken, you know.
Yeah.
And I really was. I was just a shell of my former self, and I was, which was probably not a bad thing in some senses, but I really did, I literally just didn't know what to do. And he said, no, absolutely, I'd love to help you. And so then, over a period of time, he started rebuilding my confidence in myself and what I was doing. And I could see how he was helping me. And I actually, for the first time, about 3 months in, that's when I realised that the company that I'd created wasn't me. Up until then, I felt like I was Mr. ABT and that the company and me were kind of one and the same and we couldn't get a divorce. And I realised one day, I just woke up one day and went, hey, I'm not the business. And it's not me. We can separate.
Yep.
And so, and that's how I got out of recruitment. And this is partly why I started Brisbane Small Business. It does go back to that story because I really believe that small business shouldn't be lonely. And at that stage, I felt I had no one to talk to. And that's why I created Brisbane Small Business, so that people, small businesses can share their stories.
It's certainly done very well. It's got a great traction. How many people are members of the site?
We've got nearly 6,000 members. What I'm most proud of, though, is that with having nearly 6,000 members, in a typical month, about 80% of them come in and look and see what's there for them. Now, that alone is pretty cool, but what's even cooler is about 25% of them come in every single day, right? It's not the same 25%, of course, but but on a typical day, we've got about 1,500 to 1,750 people coming in and having a look at what's going on. So that's when I know that I'm offering something really, really cool there.
Yeah, definitely. It is cool what you've done. I mean, you can obviously talk about whatever you want with the Brisbane Small Business Facebook page because it's revolutionary. There's nothing really like it in Brisbane. Have you sort of seen, I guess, other copycats to this, or have you seen anything that's sort of been copycatted in other, let's say, other places of Australia? Yeah,
look, there has been. Quite interesting. I was talking to some people about doing some live networking a little while ago, and I said, look, what I'd love to do? I'd love to add live networking to what we're doing in Brisbane Small Business. We hadn't gained traction in that field, and we still haven't. And I said, what I'd love to do is to add a little bit of your model to what I'm doing here. And the conversation went on for about 3 months, and all of a sudden they just stopped talking to me. And then all of a sudden the Facebook group that they had the exact same themes on the exact same days that we've got. Now, hey, good luck to them. I know what we've created. I know that we've done it very organically and all that sort of stuff. And at some point in time when it's right, we may go into the whole live networking scenario, but we're looking to do it in a way that is really meaningful, and so the timing has to be right. I've gone down a slightly different track, and we're looking at having the Better Small Business School, which is kind of an electronic version of a BNI type group where, the small business owners, the authorities put up some information and some education and help educate their prospects and that way build relationships through that education, and that's really what the Better Small Business School is all about.
Yes, we'll talk about the Brisbane Small Business School. Now, it's certainly you've found experts that want to contribute to the forums and contribute in the way the videos that have been done up. Articulating a presentation can be very, very helpful. What sort of traction has that sort of got so far, in your opinion? Do you think you're achieving what you're setting out to achieve at the moment?
We're on path, but we're not on. Well, we're kind of on track, but not. It's the short answer. We have had a bit of a hiccup, but I was doing a bit of research in relation to that, and when Dell first went to go completely online with all of their computing and all that sort of stuff, 15 years of development led to the point where they had their launch, and then crickets, their systems didn't work. And I feel a little bit like that. It wasn't quite 15 years of development in our case, but we haven't had everything lined up and integrated. I've just recently changed IT partners that are helping me do the integration and everything. And so a lot will happen over the next couple of months to really get that back on track. And at that stage, then we'll really be pushing and promoting this business. It is working as it is, and we're finding that, that learner members are getting in there and looking around the different subjects that are there, but we haven't been advertising it as strongly because I'm not as comfortable with the look and the feel of it at the moment, and I needed to make sure that it's something that I can be truly proud of, that we're doing that. We're trying to get the authorities to engage, as you know, and I know a lot of them are doing business with each other already anyway, so that's great. But it really does need to go to that online version and get that working, and that is happening. But there's a lot of work happening in the background still, so you'll see a lot more very soon.
Excellent. Certainly look forward to how that develops, Kevin. No doubt about that. The general forums and how people sort of interact in those forums currently. You quite often see, okay, somebody's got a problem, and they said, "Can somebody help me?" And
yeah,
you see a lot of people wanting to help straight away. Sometimes you see some pretty good advice or some examples where people have, okay, this is my experience. Here's what I would do. So how do you what's the best way to, you're letting it sort of go mainly, and obviously you've got rules and regulations, but do you like how it's sort of going?
So on the Facebook group, okay, so there's two things. There's the school.
Yeah, I'm talking about the forums and general.
Yeah, but in the Facebook group and in that community, so that's separate from the school. And in that community, we do kind of let it go. We kind of let the cream rise to the top there. And that was one of the reasons that we created the school in the first place, because I saw that the quality of information wasn't always awesome. People would ask for tax advice, and then people go, "Oh, this is what I reckon you should do," and they'll give something that is completely illegal and wrong, right?
Yeah.
And then that will be discussed generally in that forum. The school, though, it's where basically everyone that's an authority is an authority in that particular field, in their field, and we discourage them from commenting on other areas. So in the Facebook group, which is a free group, absolutely, you get the money you pay for. You get the value you pay for in a sense there.
Yeah.
However, we do believe that, and from time to time I'll see stuff that isn't quite right, and I go, "Hey, somebody's asked a legal question here. Can you make sure if you're not qualified professional in that area that you're answering? Stop giving opinions, and can we get to the heart of the matter?" And then we do find that stuff turns up.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I do feel, I guess, honoured to be that you selected Confidential Tax and Business Services as an authority on, because we've got a self-managed super fund division here at Confidential Tax. So I do thank you very much for allowing your platform, in order to be able to tell the story about what, is a self-managed super fund right for you. So I think that was a very good that you gave us that opportunity, and certainly we've used some of that information and presentation when we've spoken to new clients in this space. Hasn't been too many new clients that are self-managed super funds. That's the nature of the beast at the moment. You're sort of going through stages.
I actually think it's a great opportunity in the self-managed super fund area, because particularly with this whole Banking Royal Commission, we're all worried about what financial planners are doing and banks are doing and this and that and the next thing. And I actually see that it's going to be a rise. And having the, is it right for you, is a great topic from the point of view that people can have a look at that and they'll get a bit of a feeling for how Confidential Tax and Business Services are going to look after them. And that's really what the whole forum is about. That's what the school is all about, is to go, hey, can I have a little bit of a taste of what it's going to be like working with you before I even jump into it? And that's the beauty of what we're trying to create there.
So with the with the school, how many people would actually be members of the school at the moment?
At the moment, we've got around 200 members of the school.
Okay.
There's not a huge engagement right now, but as I said, it's something that we're refining, we're fixing, and as we get everything more integrated, then we'll really be pushing it out again.
Now, you wrote a book a couple of years ago. Business Mojo. What was it?
I did, Finding Your Business Mojo.
Yeah.
It tells a little bit about my story. The good news is everyone knows that I survived at the end. So, but it does talk about how to regain your business confidence, and how, a lot of us, as I said, are out there and sometimes looking over our shoulder thinking, hey, do I really deserve to have my own business? Do I deserve that success? And how to find a business that you love, how to find and create a business that you truly love working in and that you love your clients. That's one of my major themes in my, my life, and that I try and help my clients with, is to actually love their business and love their life. Okay? There's no point having an awesome business that's producing lots and lots of money and you absolutely hating going into the office every day. It doesn't create a great life at all. And so it really is about making sure that the business that you've got, you're attracting clients that you like to work with through the messaging that you're putting out and creating the right culture within your business. So it's about, not making your business about you, but making it about the sweet spot of what your clients are looking for and what you love doing at the same time.
And obviously people can be happier or get more out of their businesses. Everybody's different, but I've always found that if you need to have it, you need to be able to push yourself a little bit in order to enjoy it.
Absolutely. I'm never suggesting that every day should be barrel of monkeys and all that sort of stuff. Not every day is going to be fun and laughter and all that sort of stuff. Some days are going to be damn hard work. But at the end of the day, it's the journey that you need to look at, and over a longer period of time, if you're getting less and less enjoyment from that journey, then it really is time to look at, is this still the right business for you? And I've had clients that I've sat there and said, hey, is this really what you feel is what you want to do? Would you be better going back into the corporate world, because you're awesome at that too, and you could earn more money there than what you're doing working hard here. So it really is about making sure, my philosophy is making sure that, people are in the right business for them. And, I speak to you and I know how much you love helping people through helping them with their tax.
Yeah.
And I know how much you enjoy the numbers side of it. I go a bit stir crazy at that over a period of time. But I see the enjoyment that you get from solving some of those challenges and those problems and helping your clients. And, whereas other people, if it was me, for instance, I get frustrated by all of the compliance all of the time. And so, I like solving problems in a creative way, which you can't always do being an accountant. So
creative accounting.
There's too many rules around it. And so that would frustrate the crap out of me. So it would be the wrong business for me, but you love it. And that's where I know that.
Yeah, one thing I do like, Kevin, and I think it's probably been a feature for maybe a while. I love those 2-minute things you do out in the backyard. I've been watching that. I get most of those. Probably watch at least three of those a week. They're quite interesting. There's always a bit of a tidbit and a bit of advice. Coming up with new stuff to say for that, does that get hard to do or?
No and yes. I've got to say, I've just made it a habit, right? So this is the last thing I do before I head off into work. And so it's, good business is based on good habits. We all know that. And so it's really funny how I was terrified about getting up in front of the camera, and not many people know that. They go, oh, look, you look really natural and you're comfortable and all that. And on a regular basis, I'm going, well, why should people listen to me? And, I don't try and tell people what to do. What I try and get everyone to do is to at least think about something, and think about something differently. And imagine if we could just stand back and look at our situation, but look at it from a different viewpoint. And if I can get people to do that occasionally, then I know that I'm doing an awesome job with that. And I get so much feedback around that. I get feedback around the shirts that I wear as well. I get feedback about, hey, it's really lovely that you're not telling us you must do blah, because nobody has to do anything. It's your own business. But at the end of the day, if I can get you to think about your business differently, and that helps you fix some little headache that you had in your business, that's awesome. And I've done it, and that's what I love about it, is that, but it is challenging from time to time. I tend to run with themes for weeks. And look at
how
can I help people.
That's a good way of getting new stuff. coming out, I guess, is thinking, okay, well, here's a theme. Let's talk about 3 or 4 different things about this topic. Or
yeah, and sometimes I find that I'll be talking to my clients and the same thing will keep coming up. Then next week I'll start talking about, hey, I was talking to someone the other day.
Yeah. So it's experiences with clients certainly will help generate those snippets for sure. That's really
Absolutely.
good.
Look, a little confession here. If I say just the other day this happened, it could be anywhere from yesterday to about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But look, let's not worry about that so much.
No, fair enough. Now, that book you wrote, so do you think you got another book in you after that one?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I'm working on that. I'm refining the concept of my next book. Am I allowed to swear in this?
Yes, it's explicit.
Cool, awesome. Because the next book's going to be We're Not Here to Fuck Spiders. Because so many of us in small business end up running around in circles, right? And we forget what we're in business for. And so, it's a common Australian expression, to be, we're not here to waste our time. And, and that's really what I feel about small business. And there is a process to growth. And in this book, we're going to talk about what the natural process for growing your business is.
Yeah, I mean, I think you spoke in your first book. There's certainly a bit about mindset.
Very much
mindset, and obviously EI, or emotional intelligence, as you call it, as that's been coined. So I think mindset's important, and I think reading that book, certainly if you read it properly, you definitely get something that's going to help your mental health, I think, as well. And you may not think that reading your book, but that's what I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I think is a byproduct of reading that book, is that if that mental health is struggling a little bit, then here's some tools to sort of get you in a better frame of mind.
Yeah, it's just a simple process, okay, to help you refocus, re-energize, recommit to what you want to do. And that's very much what the first book is about how can we put ourselves back in that in the frame to go out and and if you're feeling like you've got to fight a new day, how can we put ourselves in the right framework to do that until we're going back out to loving the next day and doing that. And it's really a process of focusing on the big picture, creating a framework, and then keeping accountable to what you said you were just going to do, and doing the analysis to make sure that you're constantly getting better at what you're doing. And it is just a simple process.
I do think I need to share a contact with you too. I'll probably talk about it at the end of the podcast, but I think just on what you've written in that book and what these people do in careers and mental health, I think there's something there that
I'd love to have a chat with them.
You could talk to those guys. They're really good, very good people too, and they've only really started their business about 15 months ago.
Yeah.
From 4 of them got together, and they seem to work really, really well together. It's quite extraordinary that happens. But if you get the right sort of people in the right sort of room together,
it is, and that synergy can be fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. So shout out to Career Development Centre. So I guess what other people do you sort of look up to in your life at different times, or even as we speak here today, who have had an influence over your life that who you respect, who you look up to, who you've got something out of?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Everyone you meet, and that's a really basic way. I find that a lot of times when you look at the superheroes, quite often, I'll go, hey, that's really cool, and then I'll see a dark patch, or I'll see something I don't like, and then I'll go, oh, I don't like that person anymore, and which is really bad. Instead of I'm growing up, and I stopped doing that quite so much now. But I used to focus on that negative thing, going, so that whole person was bad, rather than going, hey, look at this wonderful attributes and look at the cool stuff that they were able to create from doing this, and just shelving that byproduct. And of course, the superheroes like your Steve Jobs and your Elon Musk and all, they have those dark patches that are there for sure. I also like people closer to home, very much people like Andrew Griffiths, Nick Bowditch I'm quite involved with, and he's, a great inspiration. He's completely changed the direction of his career.
I mean, Nick
Bowditch,
just for the listeners, he's actually used to work for Facebook, didn't he?
Yeah, he's the only guy in the Southern Hemisphere to have worked in the marketing departments for both Facebook and also Twitter. So he actually was the first small business consultant that Facebook had, and he would, they saw what he had done with his business, and he went along, was a bit of a character, and they said, hey, could you teach other people to do that? He said, sure. And that's how he got a job with them. He worked for them for, I think it was 3 or 4 years, maybe even be a bit longer. And then he went off and worked for Twitter for another 3 years as well. So, I still don't get Twitter. So if you don't get all social media, you don't have to worry about that.
No, I mean, obviously Facebook is where you've really made it when it comes to social media. What about Instagram? Do you?
I don't get it. Look, I'll just be honest. I'm a really simple guy, and for a long time I didn't get Facebook. We talked about the group having 6,000 people.
Yes.
Now it's 4.5 years old. It took me 10 months to get 100 followers in the group, or 100 members of the group, right? So we're getting hardly in. I can remember in the 11th month we had 20 people let in, and I was doing the happy dance, and then we went through a phase where, hey, if we weren't getting 50 new members a week, I was getting really frustrated with myself. I no longer focus on the number of members as a core measure. I focus on the engagement that we have as our core measure, and that's really what I'm looking for. Would I love to have 20,000 members? Absolutely. That'd be fantastic. It'd be because we'd be helping more people. And that's really, for me, what it's all about, is how can we help more people?
So what do you think was the key thing that said, okay, we went from flatlining membership pretty reasonably low to when you compare it to now? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, bang. What was the firecracker?
Oh, funny story. So we'd got to basically we had about 300 members, maybe more. And I also at the time was trying to create Brisbane Small Business on Facebook. We were creating a LinkedIn group as well, and we were creating meetups. And I'd invited all of there should have been 600 people throughout the 3 different areas. And I invited everyone for financial New Year's Eve drinks, right? I invited everyone for financial New Year's Eve drinks. And we went down to the Waterloo Hotel, and I said, I'll even buy everyone that shows up, by the first 50 people a beer. Only 20 people showed up, and I was devastated. Hey, I couldn't even bribe people to come and have beer with me. This is pretty bad. And I got really frustrated with it. And I was actually flying down to Sydney the day after to go to a digital marketing conference, and I put up a post just before I got on the plane. Look, I'm just so frustrated. I don't know how to get... Why aren't people engaging and coming together? And I'm really frustrated. What if we had a conference, right? And then by the time I got off the plane, and we're still in the Facebook group, we still didn't have a huge membership base. But all of a sudden, we had, there was 30 people had started commenting, and back then that was a huge number for us. Yeah. And I went, hey, this is really cool. And then and this is about 11 o'clock at night, and I started looking and reading what people were having, and then I went to sleep, and then I woke up the next morning. It was still early, but all of a sudden there were 60 people who'd commented on this thing. And, I've got to say, there was really funny comments. We were trying to have a small business expo, and people were talking about doing pony rides and face painting and jiu-jitsu exhibitions and all. And I said, hey, guys, this is a business thing that we're trying to create. We're not trying to create a family fun day. I appreciate where you're going, but we've got to worry about insurance. We've got to do that. And we want to keep a business focus to it. Yeah. In the end, we did end up doing that particular expo within only 5 months later. And in that time, we went from having about 300 members in the Facebook group to 1,100 members in the Facebook group. We had some people come and do presentations for us for that particular event. And I can remember one of them said, oh, Kevin's a Facebooker. And I went, I'm not a Facebooker. I don't take pictures of food. And I was really offended. Yeah. And my partner, Melissa, she said to me, Kevin, you've got a group of 1,100 people on Facebook. I think you've got to admit you're a Facebooker, right?
Whether or not you like
it. And so so I kind of dropped the, I'm going to have this is a bad thing. I went, hey, I'm a Facebooker. Yeah, and that's what I get. I do stuff on LinkedIn, and I've got quite a big LinkedIn following as well. But I actually enjoy my time on Facebook a bit more because Facebook is social media for dummies. It brings everything to you, and it lets you know the friends that you are, and it puts them in your feed, and it does all that, and it does all that nice stuff. Whereas I tried to go on Twitter, and I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter's really it's about news, isn't it? It's about people. It's really a news source these days. I mean, if you want to find out about what's going on in the world news-wise, follow a couple of people. Follow Trump if you have to. I don't care. He says a lot of garbage and shit. It's all on Twitter. That's what that's all about. There's not, and people just have wars on Twitter when it comes. It's probably you see that. Obviously, you would have seen a lot of wars when it comes to Facebook, and someone opens up a topic, and all of a sudden. You hopefully stay away from that, but it's there.
We actually encourage people to disagree politely, but not to get personal with each other. There's more than one way to solve a problem.
You see a lot of personal crap on Facebook as well,
yeah,
obviously. And it's like that on Twitter as well. It can get like that when commenting about somebody's news story, like Kanye did this, and then all of a sudden a million people slamming the celebrity.
Yeah,
it's all about celebrities, news,
and I don't
people
get that
slamming
point.
them, and that's the Twitter. I don't like that aspect of it. I just like finding out what are they saying, what's the news, and is it bullshit or not? At the end of the day, Instagram. I've been doing a lot more Instagram over the last 12 months, Kevin, and what I've sort of seen is that can get quite addictive a little bit as well. Believe it or not, once you start getting in there and start putting a bit of understanding behind why people use Instagram, you say, they're getting followers, they're getting people, they're sharing a picture of this, or they're putting a video up. You can see why, you start to follow a few interesting people, and then you say, I wonder what they're going to do next. So
you start to follow someone's journey more so than just an instant.
It's a lot more pictorial. It's a bit more pictorial than say Twitter.
Yep.
But there's not as much provision there for commenting on crap. You can. It's a lot of people liking posts.
Yeah,
it's a like fest.
It's a like fest rather than a commentary. And
there is commentary, but it's people are there to just love it and follow people. Share something. Share this.
Yep.
It's all about sharing shit.
Yep.
So that's why that's probably taken off. One thing you've done in your business, Kevin, and we've done it here as well, is outsourcing. Tell us a bit how you first got into outsourcing.
It was almost by accident, I've got to be honest. I was looking to get a bit of admin support, and I was in a small little mastermind group, and something came up about it, and I said, so where do you find these people? And someone said, I can find you one. And they, basically they did. They found me someone. Outsourcing something that you can do really well or you can do really poorly. I think I've done both at different times, and I think at the moment I'm somewhere in between. Would be the true story of that. It really is about making sure that you're getting the right person for the right job, and
definitely.
And I find it funny how people can get really emotional about, but how can you send a job offshore? And I used to ask people back when we had a car manufacturing industry here in Australia, I'd say, so can you just tell me what car you drive? And they go, what do you mean? I'd say, well, just humour me. And invariably it wasn't an Australian-made car. And I said, so if we all carry on like this, there's going to be no manufacturing of cars here in Australia. And they said, yeah, but that's different. And I said, why is that different? They said, well, we don't make cars well. And I said, okay. So are you saying we don't make them well or we don't make them cost effectively? Because we make awesome cars. And they go, And I go, well, I'm trying to help lots of small business owners, and if I had to employ someone full time to help me do that, I couldn't afford the resources that I'm buying offshore. And so I'd prefer to help more people and do it this way. I believe I'm doing more for the Australian economy that way than if I didn't have that help, because then I just wouldn't be able to do... Brisbane small business wouldn't exist today, as an example. And And eventually they would go, okay, well, let's just disagree on that. And I'm not after everyone to agree with me. But at the end of the day, this is my only cost-effective way of running that particular group and being able to do it. And so the outsourcing question for me is, if you can define your role or the job that you want done well enough that you can train someone offshore to do it, and that can be delivered well, then that's fine. For other people, they go, yeah, but I don't want to do that, and that's okay. If they don't want to do that, that's cool too. Yeah, I've got no stress about that.
Yeah, no, that's great. The Valley Chamber of Commerce. I know you've come to a few events. What do you think of the Valley Chamber of Commerce, and what do you think of the whole Valley
I think it's pretty awesome. The events that I've been to are more like a party than a business networking event, which is great and scary from time to time. It seems that so many of the people that have been there, been members for years, do know each other, but at the same time, it is quite welcoming to new members. So that's fantastic too. It's just a matter of the style of person you are, and can you. Do you get business out of that? Are you looking to go there for the social engagement? And it's a bit of both, and that's where it is a really great concept. And I've got to say, they do sensationally. They've got it's become an awesome force.
Definitely an awesome force, very vibrant as well, as you know. And basically it encompasses all those inner suburbs of Brisbane. And I guess you've been in Brisbane here now since 1999?
1996.
Sorry, 1996. 1996. So we're talking 22, 23 years. Is Brisbane going to be your home, do you reckon, for the rest of your life?
Yeah, look, it is. But I'm still not going to support the Queensland Maroons. So there's no way. I'm Blues through and through.
I can understand that.
Look, I'm really sorry, and I do get a lot of crap put on me for that. But I'm just sorry, that's just how I am. I do support the Reds, strangely enough. If you're going to support a major rugby team and league team, you'd swap them around and support the Maroons, and you'd support the Waratahs. But I don't. I support them. I support the losers. I'm a bit like that. Cronulla Sharks as well. So, where can I go? And the Australian cricket team. Let's just keep adding them up.
Yeah, well, the Australian cricket team... They're an interesting
but
case.
look, I'm here in Brisbane to say.
Yeah, no. So, and what do you like most about Brisbane? I mean, what do you think makes this a good economic climate for people to do business in? Because you deal with small businesses, micro businesses. What makes it good for that type of business to do business here in Brisbane?
Look, I think one of the things that does make Brisbane very much it's come of age. When I first came here, 22 years ago, it was very much run by an old school network almost. But these days, that particularly in the worlds that I'm in, has kind of dissipated. It's people no longer ask, oh, what school did you go to, or do anything like that.
No, they don't.
That used to be a really common question that was asked all the time. The reason I think Brisbane still has so much potential, with the fact that it's geographically quite diverse. If you compared Brisbane to Sydney's massive because they've got so many people, but Brisbane, the centre of the city is so small, and business is spread out right throughout its suburbs, and with that it creates great opportunities for people to do business locally, which is fantastic. And yet we're still not confined to we have to do business locally. And so there's so many ways that we can get there. It's still a very friendly environment. It doesn't feel like it hasn't lost its personality in all the years that I've been here. One of the things, if anything, it's kind of embraced being very social and gregarious and very outgoing. We still shut down between Christmas and New Year, and for half of January, for half of the workforce. Whereas Sydney, very much not. The public holidays are shut down. They'll even have staff working in between and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas, we're a little bit closer to the equator, and we embrace summer like there's no tomorrow, and I love that about it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, one of your passions is going to the races. So tell us about how you first got into that I guess as something that you were really interested in? Does it go back to when you were a kid, or?
No, it comes back to not long after I moved to Brisbane. Mates would drag me along to the races, and knowing nothing about the horses, I used to just give them money to place bets
yeah.
and as a group, and they would lose all my money. And I got sick and tired of that, so I started learning that. And of course, it was a great social environment and all that sort of stuff, so it gave me somewhere to go and all that sort of stuff as well, and that was fantastic. So speaking of, just the other week, we did have a little win with a group of mine. We all put $5 in, huge bettors, all of us these days. We put a whole $5 in to bet on a little trifecta and first four. And in the first race, we won the trifecta and first four, and that was pretty cool. We got a whole 10% extra back. So we had $33 for our $30 bet. In the second race, another couple had come along and they gave us another $5. So I chipped up and we had $40, right? And we put a little trifecta and first four in. We had 25% of the trifecta. That paid $1,400, right? So our 25% got a quarter of that. The first four paid $20,000. So we all ended up splitting $4,500 between us.
Oh, really?
That was bloody awesome. So this is what I love about the races. You can have days like that, and and I've got friends that have been really long time friends. My best friends go to the races. We don't go every single week, but it's just how we communicate with each other in that. It's another passion. We live in Hendra, so we've got friends in the area. As we're walking our dogs, we'll stop and chat with some of the trainers and that sort of stuff from time to time. We love it.
No, it's definitely a good way of life if you certainly get into that particular hobby. And you obviously, you look at your calendar, you're circling events, I'm sure.
Oh, some of them. We're even going off to Ascot, to Royal Ascot in England in the middle of the year. So we're going off just around the race days. Now, one of my mates over in England has his birthday only the week before. So we're going the week before and we're staying another week after. So that'll be an awesome 3-week holiday.
Definitely, and racing is a central theme as well.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think there's much of a gambling problem out there when it comes to the racing industry and people betting on that sort of thing, or what do you think?
Look, I can't really comment on that. Only my own situation. So, and it's as long as people keep it contained and it's a self-discipline thing.
Yeah.
Nobody can turn around and. Unfortunately, people want to turn around and blame everybody else for their own problems, and I think we've got to stop doing that. We've got to start saying, "Hey, if I've got a gambling problem, and even if it's an addiction, I need to take measures to stop that."
Yep.
If we've got any other addiction, we need to take our own personal. We need to. Hey, I have this problem. So, is there a problem? I think it's probably more prevalent than. I'm completely comfortable with. With you can bet on absolutely everything.
Yeah, you can.
Then it does. You can bet on. Is someone going to bowl and no ball the next ball? I mean, that sort of stuff is ridiculous. In my view. But hey, if somebody's enjoying it, if it doesn't hurt them,
you can bet
it's
on
okay.
things like what happens in a fake wrestling match.
Yes, they do. I don't know how they can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Where was I going to go next? So Melbourne Cup Day, that's obviously another big day.
It is. I kind of treat it like it's my birthday. So we have the day off. We do. Generally, we'll go to the track, although we don't always. My partner Melissa, her birthday's around that time of year. In fact, she was born on Melbourne Cup Day. Her father was also a jockey. He broke his ankle, so couldn't go to the hospital where she was, and so she made the paper for her birthday. She made the newspaper when she was 1 day old. So that was pretty big news. So it was quite interesting. So we always do have a bit of a party. It's always around Melissa's birthday. So it's a bit special for us for that reason too.
Yeah. So I mean, with networking itself, I mean, is that something you've sort of been a part of for most of your adult life, or is that something you sort of got more into over the last since you've been in Brisbane?
It has been very much more so when I'm in Brisbane, from my time in Brisbane. It's been something that I've drifted in and out of in how my physical networking, and I drift between online and physical networking and try and complement the two. Is what I'm very passionate about, because I believe that awesome relationships can start anywhere. Sometimes they will start at a breakfast, or they may start at a Valley Chamber. You're at a pub. Hey, an awesome relationship can just start at a regular pub. It could be a mate of a mate. We never know where these relationships are going to start. And if we could start, I'm very passionate about getting people to use social media to be social. And if you're using it for business, remember to still be social. You can still talk about your business and be social, but drop the selling stuff. People who are great networkers aren't walking into, physical networking events, aren't walking to, the Valley Chamber of Commerce going, hey, come and buy my stuff. They're not shouting that as they walk in the door. But when people get to social media and they see that, hey, there's this event or there's this group, they feel like they've got to walk in and the very first thing is, come and buy my stuff. And it just turns people off straight away.
Definitely.
And that's why, in our group, we have no advertising. We do let people buy premium memberships and do some ads on the weekend, but we don't let them advertise on a daily basis and just go, buy my stuff. We encourage them to talk about, to help others in doing what they do and help them understand that, but without the big sales pitch.
Yeah. Do you use email much these days? Is that something you get? Do you get lots of emails? How do you deal with emails?
I get way too many emails. Although I still love emails. Everyone keeps trying to talk about, all the techie guys keep trying to talk about the death of emails, and it can't come soon enough. For me, I get email, right? It's like Facebook. I get Facebook. I get email. I'm a bit slow at picking up new stuff. When I get on things like Slack and stuff, I just lose what's happening and I lose the train of it. And a lot of people feel like that with Facebook, although I've worked out that, I can still then send a message to someone, which is kind of like email for Facebook, and so I'm happy with that. So, so then I can keep track of stuff. But I do like the fact that I want to talk one-on-one with someone. To me, email is the easiest way for me to do that.
It's odd. Facebook Messenger is probably getting used more than it used to for me. I don't know about you, but I'm getting
very much so.
About 10 of those, 10 messages going back and forth a day. More prevalent than a mobile text message. A mobile text message doesn't get used as much these days, really, but it's still a form of communication as well.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I probably get a lot more messages than I do text messages, like Facebook messages.
Yeah.
And of course, people are using bots to market into Facebook Messenger now, and they're finding that quite effective. I find when they're too intrusive and they do it poorly, hey, when anyone does anything poorly, we get a little bit offended. But the thing that I really hate SMS marketing. I hate it.
Especially if you don't know who it is.
Yeah, if I don't know this person, I get really offended. Why are they sending me a text? Which is really weird.
Yeah, definitely very weird. And what about and the other thing that these sort of things can create, and the bots in particular, the hackers are out there, aren't they? And email scams, there's so many different types, staying on top of them. Have you had any experiences at all where you've been caught out cold with an email scam? Or
I haven't yet, which is really cool. Although years ago I did do the wrong thing when I was buying through one of the book your holiday things and got robbed through that. But my own stupid fault for doing what I did at the time. The scammers are getting smarter and smarter, and their emails are looking more and more like real emails. And so it is really important to be super vigilant and make sure that, the company that you think has sent that invoice and all that sort of stuff. That's the most common one that is still out there. And they're looking more and more like the real company all the time. They used to be really easy to pick up on, but they're getting smarter and smarter, which is unfortunate.
Have you ever sort of been a part of any service organisations before, like a Rotary or a Lions or anything like that, or any sort of other similar type service organisations?
I haven't, and I know that you're very passionate about that, and you're involved in your Apex and your... is it just Apex?
Yeah, Apex, but obviously no people in Rotary.
And I'm not... I kind of feel like what I do for Brisbane Small Business is kind of being that, because I do put a lot of money into that group,
And it's a
on
community
an annual
service.
basis. And it really is. We do focus on trying to put community stuff in there. You know, we do very much on a semi-regular basis put information in around mental health, because it's something that I am passionate about, something that I'm concerned about, because small business owners, it can be lonely. And when, you know, particularly with so many people working from home and they're working from home alone, if you get in that negative spiral, it's very easy for that to go in the very wrong direction. And so that's why I'm so passionate about, constantly, just putting little reminders in there that, hey, if you're not okay, please feel free to shout out. And I am always there for people.
I guess one of the things to finish, the last few things to talk about, one of the things you were doing late last year, grants for small businesses. You were involved in that process, I believe. Tell us a bit about that and what's likely to happen in 2019 for grants.
Yeah, so I just focus on one core grant, and my interest in that was purely self-interest. It was there's the Entrepreneurs Grant. The Queensland Government are actually really passionate about trying to help small business. I was actually sitting, being the founder of Brisbane Small Business, I do get invited to different political things from time to time.
Yes,
and I was sitting in a meeting recently where we had the Assistant Treasurer, and he was talking about, if the government support big business to grow, what the big business tend to do is to put that into ways of bringing in efficiency so that they can sack a whole lot of people. So they've worked out that sending more money for big business to do that isn't good for the whole economy, because all of a sudden a whole lot of people are unemployed. If they help small and medium businesses grow, then what happens is, as they grow, even if they're bringing technology into it, they're still employing more people, which is fantastic. And it's improving the lifestyle of the business owners. And that's why there are so many different grants to help small business grow. The digital grant is the hardest grant in the world to get. It is so super competitive. And because it's a competitive grant and the government have, $3 million or whatever to give away each round, when they get inundated with thousands, literally thousands and thousands of applications, they've got to say no to most of them. In fact, my calculations suggest that only about 20% of applicants get that grant. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Entrepreneurs Grant, they're telling me that about 70% of people are getting the Entrepreneurs Grant. So if you've got a business, or if you've created a new business, even if it's a new business name with your business, if you're looking for support to get professional support, and the object of the Entrepreneurs Grant is to get small business owners to use professionals to get some professional advice in different areas, to create a business plan, to get coaching and mentoring, even about strategic accounting advice, and also strategic marketing advice. It's for those particular things. And it's kind of a little bit of a bribe to get the small business owner to start doing that, so they can train them that using outsourced professionals to help you grow your business is a cool thing to do, and will really help you go ahead leaps and bounds. And that's really what that particular grant's about. I've got so passionate about it because I'm a coach and mentor, and using that grant has helped me grow my business quite significantly.
Definitely, I can see that.
Yeah, in 2017-18, that financial year, I actually had 12 clients get that grant, and so it grew my business by $120,000. So, in the most recent round, I actually had 18 prospects come and say, hey, can you help me out with this grant? And can I do some work with you with that grant? And that's just in one round. So there was 18 new clients that I've got out of that particular round. So that's why I'm so passionate about the grant.
No.
And I'm passionate about, helping those people to create business plans, to get them on their journey, and to start helping them, have their business take off.
That's a really good story, really good recent example of your really good work, other than what you obviously do with the Brisbane Small Business Facebook page. So that's excellent, Kevin. Anything else I guess we wanted to tell the listeners at all today? We've just clicked over the hour mark, believe it or not.
I think we've been really exhaustive. You've covered everything. I can't think of anything else. So, no, look, I think it's been fantastic. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And I know that you do look after, that you really care about the community with all the work you do through Apex. And we see that regularly on your Facebook feed, as well as getting invites to different events, which is fantastic. And really, really happy to be here. And if anything I've said's helped people out, that's fantastic.
Thank you very much, Kevin. That's been really, really good to have you here on the podcast. We obviously, as I said at the start, we wanted to get you on, and I think it's going to be a very good podcast for the listeners. And also, please make sure you share it to everybody you know in your Brisbane Small Business Facebook group. I think we can make this particular podcast the most listened to podcast. That's your aim. You'd have to. All you have to do is beat 40 downloads. So.
Oh, look, we can do that.
Okay, so
I'll get the whole family onto it.
Okay. So there you go. It's the weekend coming up. Thank you very much, listeners. Thank you very much, Kevin Gammie from Brisbane Small Business Facebook page. Great group, and he's an extraordinary guy. Thank you very much, Kevin, and have a good weekend, sir.
Thank you, Tim.
And that's been From the Valley podcast. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.